podcast called J is for Justice.
I think there's just hope that she returns no matter what. Oh my God, that's Megan's house. Oh my God. Oh my God.
And then...
Wait a second, you guys. We have breaking news. All of a sudden in the chat, there was breaking news that there was a raid going on in Houston, Texas. It may be connected to a high-profile case.
That's her best friend. She would not be there.
Welcome to part 2 of Kelsey Berreth, When Truth Must Speak. I will now continue with my interview with Kelsey's friend, Nicole.
I think we'll learn a lot more as the details continue.
Yeah, for sure, because they're not going to show all their cards at the preliminary. Do you think that Kelsey's parents will attend the trial?
I would think probably so. Yeah. I haven't talked to them about it. I can't imagine wanting to attend. I think that would be the worst world. But
I thought about them being at that preliminary, and I asked Mike's wife if they were there, and she said no, we didn't see them. And I was like, well, thank God, because how could you sit through that?
Mm-hmm. I don't know this for sure, but it's possible that her dad was there. I know because of Kaylee, with Cheryl having the baby, that would be very difficult to drive all the way down there with a baby and then find a babysitter hearing. So
for sure.
So Cheryl did stay home, but I think Daryl may have been there because if the family doesn't show up, then that just raises more questions, unfortunately, in the public's eyes.
Right. You're kind of damned if you do and you're damned if you don't in a situation like that. Yeah. Those poor people. What kind of relationship did Kelsey have with her parents?
They were very close. In fact, I remember thinking, this is long before I even had kids, when I was first married and I moved back to Moses Lake, I would see Kelsey and her mom going out to lunch together. I ran into them at a little cafe in Moses Lake one day, and I thought, I hope I have a relationship like that with my daughters someday. I mean, that's just something that every mother-daughter wants to have, and they had it. They were just connected to the hip, basically. And she was very close with her brother and dad as well. But there was a real special bond between Kelsey and her mom. Mm-hmm.
What was it like, growing up and going over there, and what's her family unit like with her brother and her parents?
They're a very tight-knit family. The Berreth family as a whole tends to be more behind the scenes. They're pretty quiet people. So, I mean, when I saw Cheryl do her first interview on national television, I was just blown away at her strength to be able to do that. Mm-hmm. That's a hard thing to do for anybody, but especially knowing Cheryl, she had to really gather some strength and had to be praying big time before she did that, because it's not an easy thing for anybody, like I said, but they're a very quiet family. They don't like being in the spotlight, even when it's a good thing. So that was very difficult for her to do.
There was a lot of chatter on social media after her interview aired, and there was a lot of people kind of criticizing Cheryl for being, kind of I don't want to say secretive, but maybe not really outspoken about details with what was going on with Kelsey, which made people believe and kind of speculate that they weren't very close, that her mom really didn't know what was going on there in Colorado. And it sounds like it's the opposite of that. Very
much so. It's a long distance from North Idaho to Colorado, and yet they would make the drive there multiple times a year to spend time with Kelsey, and Kelsey would fly home quite often to be with her family.
They would drive all the way from Washington.
Yes.
Wow.
Her dad does not like airplanes, which is kind of ironic because Kelsey is such a devoted pilot. Mm-hmm. He does not like flying, so they would drive more often than not.
Wow, that's a hike. Mm-hmm. So did they ever meet Patrick?
Yeah, I'm sure they did.
Mm-hmm. Do we know why Kelsey and Patrick didn't live together, or did they ever live together when she moved out there?
as far as I know, they never lived together, but I didn't keep real close tabs on her after she moved to Colorado. Just different lives. That's about the time that I was in the middle of having my babies, and so I didn't hear a whole lot. But I mean, I would assume for myself, knowing that he lived with his mom and not a huge place, I probably wouldn't want to live. I mean, I love my mother-in-law, but I wouldn't want to live, the multiple family thing going on there.
It's just interesting that they were engaged, but they didn't reside together. And I just kind of wondered if there was any insight on that, if he didn't want to leave his mom's house, or if it was easier for him because of what he did for a living, to be right there, whatever.
Yeah, I think there's probably multiple factors there. Not only the multi generations living together, but I also have horses and animals. It's very difficult to live apart from them and still care for them, because you have to feed them twice a day at least to make sure that they're well taken care of. And so he had horses as well as cattle. So, living in the same vicinity as the livestock is
right. That makes sense.
Pretty demanding thing.
That makes sense.
And then the other factor too, it could have been part of, Kelsey's belief system. It's very common in the Seventh-day Adventist Church to not live together before you're married.
Got you. Okay.
Have a baby together, but it could be something that maybe I know she wasn't planning on having a baby yet. So I can just, maybe imagine the circumstances around there that she had changed her mind on certain things.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. And maybe he didn't like that. Was she pretty independent, Kelsey? Pretty independent girl?
Yeah, and that's something special about her character as well. She was very shy and very timid, or not timid. She was very, very shy and quiet. And typically when you meet someone like that, you just automatically assume that they're timid and that they have a weak character, but that wasn't Kelsey. She was very strong-willed, and she was, if she believed something, you better believe she was going to tell you why. And she, even though she wasn't the upfront person, she wasn't super loud. She knew what she believed, and she had a very strong character.
Kind of see that in her mom too. Her mom seems like she's quiet, yet you can tell that she was on a mission to find her daughter and find out what went on there, and you even know now that she made those phone calls to Patrick, what's going on? Where is Kelsey? She wasn't just sitting back, being a meek little mouse waiting, for him to come to her. She was seeking out information from him.
Well, and yeah, exactly. That's a great, great thing you picked up on there. She found out on Sunday, December 2nd, that she had called Patrick on that day saying, "Hey, what's going on? Why haven't I heard from Kelsey?" And he gave her the story, and she was down there the next day. She was going to get to the bottom of it. She wasn't just going to say, "Oh, well, he says such and such will wait."
She wasn't buying it. Yeah, she wasn't buying it. It's that mother's intuition. She knew something wasn't right. It was out of character for Kelsey.
Yeah.
So there was another thing that I've read a lot of people talk about, is the fact that she didn't hear from her daughter in 10 days. And that was another reason why they assumed that there wasn't such a tight relationship there. And I think that, yeah, go ahead.
Apart. Yeah, they live so far apart. I mean, I literally 10 minutes from my mom, and we might go a few days without talking, and she's not over there worrying that I've gone missing. And if I was living alone and if I didn't have a support system, then maybe she would keep closer tabs on me. But, coming from Cheryl's standpoint, Kelsey's got her fiance, she's got her job, she's got people down there that she's in connection with. So, Cheryl's probably thinking, if she's missing, someone's going to ask me. And
and why would Cheryl have ever imagined that she would go missing?
Exactly. Yeah.
If something was happening or something was wrong with Kelsey and Kelsey was able to, she would have called her mom.
Exactly. And that's another key point, is if there had been something suspicious, she probably would have been keeping in closer contact with her on a daily basis just to check in. but she wasn't concerned about anything. Everything
Mhm.
seemed fine.
Right. So knowing that her and her mom were close, and she probably talks to her mom about everything,
Mhm.
if she felt in danger or felt like she was being sought out or there were weird things happening, we can probably assume that she would have talked to Cheryl about that and said, Mom, I feel really weird. This lady came to my door. This, it gave me a weird feeling.
Mhm.
I think it's kind of safe to say that maybe she just chalked it up. I mean, she had a 1-year-old,
Mhm.
and we all know what it's like having a 1-year-old. You're running all over the place and you're busy and you work. And I'm sure that, she had the baby going to a babysitter or some kind of a daycare while she worked. And, there's only so much time in a day to
Mhm.
get things done. And I know what it's like having little ones. And maybe she just brushed it off, because Mike did say in defense of that, because I thought it was strange. I was like, if someone walked up to my door, I would think it was weird. But he said, you don't understand. That's how it is here. That's what people do. It's not out of the ordinary, and it's not strange. It's common practice here. It's a small town, and that's just what people do for each other.
Mhm.
And even his wife vouched for that. She's like, I've done that for people. And I said, but a coffee? I mean, I can see, like when I moved into my house, my neighbor brought over a apple cake that she made, and welcome to the neighborhood. There was a purpose for it. So I didn't understand the dog story, but Mike did say, bringing your neighbor something, even to just introduce yourself, is normal practice there.
Mhm.
So in Kelsey's defense, she probably just chalked it up as, this is how this little close-knit community is.
Yeah, and she was raised in a much smaller community than that.
Right.
Warden, Washington is almost not on the map.
Right.
Warden is right next to Moses Lake, so it's one and the same.
So that might be something that she would be a little accustomed to, or people, looking out for one another and being nice and friendly and neighborly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it brings me back to when I was telling you about the four-wheelers. I've always kind of had this vision of Kelsey. When I look at the Frazee family, I see, some pretty strong, burly women. Like Crystal is burly, his mother's burly, they're whatever they do. I don't know anything about ranching, but they're roping cows, is it?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what they do. I know they have cows, horses, and all of that. She was out on four-wheelers with Patrick, herding cattle. I pictured her to be a petite little, girly girl.
Mm-hmm.
And we chatted a little bit before, and you said, no, she grew up on a farm.
Yeah. She grew up on, I don't even know, probably hundreds of acres of hay farms. So she was out there driving tractors, bucking bales, which that's the term for when you pick up bales and move them. She was not a weak,
No.
She was not a weak girl. And then on top of that, we were out camping and out white water rafting, and she took care of herself and
very active,
and was always cognizant of her appearance, but that definitely does not mean that she was weak or a prissy girl, because she was not at all.
Right. No, that's really interesting. I think that speaks a lot of, I've never, heard anything about Kelsey's personal life and, the types of things that she grew up doing. And it's fascinating to hear that she grew up on a farm and she was out there doing, as a farmhand.
Yeah.
And she's a tough girl. She's a tough girl, but she was also very pretty.
Yeah. Some of my favorite memories from when we were kids is, like I said, I would have sleepovers at their house, and during the day we'd go explore the farm, and where there would be irrigation canals that were probably 10 or 12 feet wide and 4 or 5 feet deep. Not anything dangerous, but there'd be just a tiny little metal pipe going across, and Clint and Kelsey would just run across that pipe, and and I'd be like, trying to balance my way across,
yeah.
and they're playing chicken on the thing, trying to knock each other into the water. This is when we're 10, 11, 12,
Yeah.
she was not some prissy little girl.
She was kind of a tomboy, huh? She got dirty with her brother, and
they all were.
That's cute. That's cute. Her and her brother were pretty close.
Mm-hmm. Yes, very close. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In fact, it was pretty cute when they were in a new situation around new people. They're both very shy. You know, typically in a family, one will be the outgoing one and the other one will kind of hide behind, but they would be like stuck together trying to hide behind each other.
Oh. Like, you talk first. No, you talk first.
Exactly. That's exactly how
cute.
it was.
That's cute.
And typical siblings, they could fight. I have a brother that's 2 years older, and we would fight so hard. And, you know, just like, you know, Clint and Kelsey were too, but then they were best friends at the same time. So that's, you know, someone that has an older sibling, you can understand that connection. You can't, that's my version of best friend material. If you can fight, if you can really duke it out and then be telling secrets the next day, you're pretty close.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like a very nice family, very nice, close-knit family. Mm-hmm. Very tragic for them to lose her. Absolutely. I'm sure it's like, it's never going to be the same for them. And my heart goes out to them. That's real. And, you know, and it's always these people that are so good and have no ill will towards anybody. And something like this happens. And it's just so disheartening. But let's see, we talked about Kelsey never expressed any fear, obviously, to her mom, or her mom would have. Because her mom said in the interview that there was no problems that she knew of.
Yeah. She, as far as I know, she didn't suspect Patrick right off the bat. You know, they trusted him apparently. You know,
never had any reason not to trust him. Wow. People can sure hide who they are, can't they?
They really can. Yeah, it's scary. It really is.
And I bet you her mom was suspicious when she butt dialed Kelsey. I don't know if you heard those details. She said that she butt dialed Kelsey and then got a text back and said, "I'll call you later," or something like that. Mm-hmm. And then she never got a call. So I'm sure she thought that might have been a little.
Yeah, or maybe I mean, I forget to call my mom all the time.
True, you get caught up doing stuff and you're like, oh shoot, I forgot to call my mom. Yeah.
Yeah, and she was a very busy girl. I mean, she had a full-time job as a flight instructor. And from what Patrick says, she apparently was studying for something. So I don't know what she was studying for, but if she's, you know, working a full-time job as well as studying and, you know, raising a 1-year-old, you know, I'm busy and I've got a husband to help me out here. He's a work from home, you know, real estate agent. So I can't try to do it by myself.
It sounds like they were doing some kind of like custody swap, like visitation swap between the two of them.
Yeah, I don't know what any of that was about. I mean, I do know that during the day when she was working, the baby was with Patrick. So she didn't have to go to daycare. She was with him. Correct, because Patrick worked for himself. He was a farrier. That's the person that trims horse hooves and puts shoes on the horse hooves. So he would take her with him to his different trimming appointments.
I think I heard a neighbor or somebody talk about him bringing the baby with him. Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. I guess I didn't realize that was like something they did every day, that he took the baby every day. Mm-hmm. So I guess it's safe to assume that Sheila Fraze was around that baby a lot.
Mm-hmm. Most likely.
If she was, they were watching her. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, depending on, I don't know what Patrick's schedule was like, but, if he was, making a full-time income, it's a farrier is I have horses as well, so I understand that the farrier's job, it's hard work and they're gone all day. They're here, early morning appointments to late at night if he was working that full time. So
oh, really?
I could see, he probably wasn't sitting around at home. He was probably taking her here and there, and this is all speculation because I never met Patrick or his mom. Right.
We did just hear that he would bring, some of his customers have said, that he brought the baby. Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. I guess I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that he had her while Kelsey worked. Wow.
Mhm.
How is Kelsey's family doing now, with everything that's come out and now that we know it's going to go to trial?
Mhm. As you can imagine, this is worst case scenario to lose your daughter to murder. But I live fairly close to Daryl and Cheryl, and we were very close before this even happened. So I've tried to keep in touch with them as much as I can. And honestly, I'm just blown away with how well they're handling things. I mean, not that it's easy by any means, again, but there's just been a whole community of people that have been praying for them, and they have voiced on several occasions that they feel those prayers, and they really feel the support of their church family and the community, and even I think strangers on the internet that have really taken a burden to this issue.
Mm-hmm.
People are praying that are just complete strangers to the Berreth family, and those are making an impact. It's
Nice.
really the incredible power of prayer that's upholding them, because no human mind can handle this easily, for sure. And not that it's easy for them at all, but Cheryl will post things on her Facebook page, about looking for the blessing in things rather than the things that bring you down. And
What a good outlook to have.
yeah, and one thing that she posted from the very beginning, before they even had any answers, was when the train goes through a dark tunnel, you don't question the conductor and jump off. You trust the train conductor and ride it through.
That's her faith in God. That's her faith in God coming out, and that's what she's getting her strength from.
Yeah. And I'm so thankful a million times over that they had that faith in God before all this happened. Because
where do you turn? Where do you turn?
Mm-hmm.
It's good to know that they do have that faith, and they do have the strength from the community and probably their church.
Yeah. And another thing that's a little different about the Seventh-day Adventist Church, there's a lot of people that may not know this, but from the biblical understanding of what happens when someone dies is not that they're immediately in heaven or hell, but that they're in a state of sleep. So understanding that mindset of their daughter's just been murdered, they know she's not in pain. She's not looking down from heaven agonizing over her daughter being raised without her. She's asleep. She's at peace, and her family knows that. Interesting.
Yeah, I never knew that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not a real well-known thing, but it's when Jesus raised Lazarus from the dead, before he raised him, he said Lazarus is asleep. Multiple times throughout the Bible, death is related to being in a state of sleep. So until Jesus comes back the second time, she's going to be sleeping.
And a lot of people don't know about the Seventh-day religion. They don't know. A lot of people haven't even what is that?
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason I know was because I worked for Florida Hospital, and they're owned by they're a Seventh-day Adventist church. So there were certain things, I came in and it's okay, they don't serve meat in the cafeteria, and we couldn't wear open-toed shoes. There was just these little rules, and I was like, wait, what's this? What's Seventh-day Adventist? What are we, And so it was all new to me, but I don't know anything about, those type of beliefs. I just knew kind of the social end of the belief system. So that's interesting to hear that probably brings them a lot of peace.
That wouldn't be heaven if you're up there watching all this agony going on, and just longing to be, even when nothing's going on and you're away from your kids, it's terrible. It's gut-wrenching, but she's asleep, and she's gonna see her daughter again, and
that's a very peaceful way to accept it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh. Well, my thoughts and prayers go out to her family and to you and all her friends that I'm sure are missing her, and knowing that you won't be able to talk to her again. That's the worst part. I've lost a close friend to a drunk driving accident. So I know that feeling where you feel like, oh, I should I should text her, especially now that you guys both had kids, you know, there's probably times that have come up for you like that too.
Oh yeah, I'll be scrolling through my phone and her name pops up and just, you know, just out of reaction, oh, I wonder what Kelsey's doing.
Right. Yep. Those little triggers. And it's going to be hard for her parents as, you know, those little triggers hit, and all the first holidays and celebrations and things like that without her being involved is going to be really hard.
Yeah.
So,
Mother's Day, Father's Day is coming up. You know, my mind just popped that up yesterday. But so keep your prayers coming. They really are making a difference, and there's nothing better that we could be doing than to be praying.
Yep.
And as far as the justice part goes, you know, it's nobody knows the outcome until it's done. I mean, it's anybody's game at this point. We don't know how things work out, but again, we know who the final judge is. Yeah. And someone's going to pay for it in the end, and there's going to be no questions about what's right and what's wrong. So, you know, there will be justice for Kelsey, hopefully on this earth, but for sure in eternity.
Thank you for sharing all of that with me. I know it's not easy, and you hold yourself together quite well. You really do. And I know she's very special to you. I don't want to make you cry, but I know that she's very special to you. I can tell. And just the fact that you're being strong and you're speaking out just because you want people to know who your friend was. And I think that's very commendable.
Well, and at this point in time, it's been December, January, February, you know, 3 months since she first went missing. There's been a lot of tears shed. So
I'm sure.
Point, I've mostly cried them all out, but it still does creep up every now and then.
Oh yeah, it comes in waves.
I've done a million interviews too, so that kind of, it puts me in a place of kind of being numb, and I don't like that, but at the same time, it does help me talk about it. Who she was. So that's
yeah. Well, you have a meaning to, you know, a purpose for doing interviews, and it's a good purpose. It's not about getting the story; it's about getting the word out, because everybody's talking about this case, and getting the word out to those people of, you know, and standing up for your friend. And I think that's awesome. And I would only hope that I could have a friend like you if I was in that position to stand up and speak out for me too.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for talking with me.
You're welcome. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you being on here. And like I said, you know, all of us will be praying for everybody, you know, throughout this trial. And as, you know, go through that's going to be a difficult time. So
thank you.
All right. Well, thanks, Nicole.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
You too.